Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share my full review, the digitally digested segment for the DJI Pocket 2. You can see it right here. It retails for $350 US, or you can go with the Creators Bundle, which retails for $500 and really includes everything you will truly need to take full advantage of what the Pocket 2 is capable of. With that said, let's get into this. So, the original Pocket, unlike anything else ever made, a stabilized, gimbal stabilized camera in your pocket, that's where it gets the name from, that really was go anywhere, had great battery life, very good video quality, and again, nothing on the market like it had ever been made. DJI was alone. And then over time, other Chinese manufacturers started to make competing products. So, as I hoped and waited for a second generation, my mind pretty much saw that anything could be possible with DJI. After all, I was an original Osmo owner, and God knows that thing was tremendous. So I had no idea what DJI might try to do in their second gen Pocket. Well, now we do. So what changed from Gen 1 to Gen 2? Well, it got a little bit larger. We got a wider field of view. We got a faster piece of glass. We got 64 megapixels for shooting stills, a larger sensor. We got an in-box control, not stick, but thumb joystick, if you will, whereas this accessory was an optional accessory that you had to purchase for additional cash. All of the Gen 1 accessories were very pricey, whether it was the one that I have right here for Wi-Fi connectivity, or the selfie stick, or the charging case, and really none of that has changed here in the second generation. But besides the improvements I just mentioned, we now also have audio quality that is actually very good. There's a microphone here so that anyone in front of the camera will be captured, a microphone here for the left channel, a microphone here for the right channel, and then a microphone above the record button to capture any audio from the person operating the Pocket 2. Now the original, on the other hand, of course, did not have any of that luxury. In fact, the audio quality was fairly terrible. One microphone there, and that's pretty much it. A mic at the bottom, I think. That's the whole deal. Micro SD card slot remained in the same place. Now, DJI claims that it only supports up to a ½ terabyte, I believe, but I have no problem using my 1 terabyte SanDisk card, so keep that in mind. Both are capable of 4K 60. The Pocket 2 is slated to have HDR capability. I have not seen that yet. Another advantage that the Pocket 2 has is that it deals with high contrast. In other words, brightness changes much better than Gen 1. Gen 1 pretty much couldn't handle it at all. So when filming in auto, you can transition smoothly. So that's another advantage. But when it comes to the actual video quality, I have to say that putting them side by side, there are moments when I think that the first gen product actually has better video quality. Of course, there are also times where I clearly see that the Gen 2 product outperforms it. So I'm in no way trying to say Gen 1 is better than Gen 2, but it's just something I want to make all of you aware of because it's part of my experience. Now, instead of all of the accessories that DJI threw at us with the Gen 1 product, that Creator Bundle does make life easy, but at $500, it doesn't make it affordable, in my opinion. Some people will think it's a bargain. I don't. I think it's great that they included the control stick, the joystick, which I actually do think in many ways is better than the Gen 1 product. It's more intuitive for the average user, but the lav mic that's included with this, I don't think with the Creator Bundle is a must-have. In fact, I kind of frown upon it because even though it integrates seamlessly, which is fantastic, and I wish more manufacturers did things like that, it is proprietary and will only work with this product. Whereas if you invest your money in something like the Rode Wireless Go I'm using now, or the Comica Boom XD, you have a mic that you can use with any camera. Granted, it won't sync with this thing seamlessly, but that's still very good. Also, we got a dedicated power button here in Gen 2, and if you look at startup times, you will notice, I'm going to do this, 1, 2, 3, that the startup time on the newer product is better. In fact, significantly better. Battery life, roughly the same. You're going to get 2 hours out of this, which is a little bit more than what I personally experienced out of the Gen 1 Pocket. But do remember that the battery is not replaceable. And over the course of your use and ownership of this product, eventually that battery will die, and that will be the end of the story. That doesn't mean it's throwaway, but I imagine that DJI's cost to repair is going to force you into purchasing another one, or who knows, maybe even DJI will offer you a discount to buy a new one to replace it. But either way, both are really great. If you currently own a Gen 1, I don't think it's worth upgrading to the Gen 2, even though the Gen 2 is an upgrade in basically every possible way. As I mentioned, wider field of view, larger sensor, higher megapixel count. I'll get to that a little bit later. The microphone array is just fantastic. I don't even think you necessarily need to have a wireless microphone. That's how good the audio quality is. The active track, a big selling point. It is pretty good. I mean, its ability to track subjects is very impressive. However, that's only when it's working. And I've seen it in enough instances fail, and when that happens, it just stares at the sky. In other words, the camera just points up. So don't buy this just because you think the active track is next level and amazing and it's going to be your robotic camera person. I'm not saying that it can't do that, and God knows DJI is going to push firmware after firmware after firmware update to this, just as they did with the Gen 1, although the Gen 2 is definitely a far more finished product at the time of this review, as opposed to where Gen 1 was, a month or two since it had launched. But that's because they've had more time with the technology. Now, it's a great video camera, unlike anything else still. Even though there are competing products, I've reiterated, no one does it as well as DJI. But that does not make this thing perfect. In fact, I do have a short list of things DJI should have done in Gen 1 that I thought would happen in Gen 2 that simply did not happen. So let's talk about that. I'm going to power down the first gen Osmo Pocket, which, by the way, I think you can find this discounted for like $200 now. Complete bargain, in my opinion, to scoop one of these for a deuce. If you can get it for less, even better. Yeah, the accessories will still cost you something, but they're marked down, and that's the big benefit. With this, on the other hand, as I said, you kind of need the creator pack to get the most out of it. I say that because you need the do-it-all grip, which gives you the wireless connectivity that does not come with the base $350 unit we're looking at here out of the box. And that is my first gripe with this product. You'll hear it from me. You'll hear it from the world. It really should have that. The copycat products that exist from various Chinese manufacturers, virtually all of them have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth built in. DJI has no excuse for not building it in to this device. Really, it's 2020, nearly 2021. How could something that is so technologically, it's a marvel, really, isn't it, not have the ability to have any form of wireless connectivity on board? It's just, that's mind-boggling. I don't get it. And while the grip that comes in the creator bundle fixes that, it's just, to me, it should be standard, okay? That's my first gripe with this thing. I do love that they've integrated a 1/4-20 mount onto it. That's something that, of course, didn't exist on Gen 1, always should have. Now you've got it, so that's good. Not in love with the Canon Redline stuff. Not sure why DJI is doing that. They've also done it on their Ronin refresh this year. I don't dislike it, but I don't understand mimicking any other manufacturer. So if they would have gone Alpha Orange, for those of you that know that I like Sony, I would have also criticized that. I just don't understand why DJI is mimicking another manufacturer when they have a product that is clearly unique only to them, even though many companies have tried to knock it off. So, beyond the lack of wireless built in, the rest of the things that come in that creator bundle, like the proprietary microphone system, I don't think is a great add-on. But I do think if you're really going to rely on this to be an A-cam, you probably want that, because as good as these mics are, they still don't have the ability to travel, right? But that lav will. Another thing, it's powering off now, going to sleep, and I'll come back to this, don't worry, to take you through the menus. Besides that lav, they include a wireless adapter, now lens adapter. Now, with the Gen 1 product, third-party manufacturers started making those. The best one for me was the Freewell. They're not expensive. You can still buy those. The Gen 1s work with the Gen 2, so you don't really need DJI's wide-angle lens. That's not to say that it's good, but I am saying that third-party ones are good enough that that's not a necessity. The little tripod they throw in, also not a necessity in my opinion. So really, it's that grip extension that gives you the wireless connectivity and the mic that you're really buying, and whether or not that's going to be worth it to you is up to you. I know a lot of people are actually happy connecting their camera to the Pocket 1 or Pocket 2. I personally never like doing that, but I can understand wanting to have a better grip on your so-called rig, and the screen here is still ridiculously small. So that's my second gripe. I wish that DJI had made a larger display. I don't care if this thing gets a little bit larger, it'll still fit in my pocket, and I don't wear skinny jeans, but I also don't wear parachute pants. So keep that in mind. Had they made the screen a little bit larger and given us wireless connectivity, I think this is a different device, but not. Hopefully that makes sense. So we got that out of the way. The other thing that bothers me about it is the sensor size. Yes, it got larger. It does better in low light. It handles, as I said, high contrast, brightness, changes, essentially changes in dynamic range better, but I really was hoping for a 1-inch sensor. And while some of you may think that's insane, again, if this got larger but was still pocketable, so let's say, an inch larger in terms of width, and they made the head unit larger, the actual lens sensor, I wouldn't be upset with it. It would still be pocketable, but I could actually justify it in my workflow. Now, for me, this was a novelty that was amazing, that was a go everywhere, kind of do everything backup. This, on the other hand, at $500, you're releasing the backup label and you're making it somebody's primary. And if you've been wondering why I have these two cameras here, it's to make a point. It's not to say they're the same price, because they're not. Although I must say the Insta360 1-inch, the 1R 1-inch edition with a 1-inch sensor, granted it is a much wider angle lens, but you can still do 4K 60 just like you do here. You can still do slow-mo like you can do here. And take great stills, granted not 64 megapixel stills because Insta is not trying to blow smoke up your ass. This comes in at roughly the same price as the Creator Bundle. Now, of course, only has electronic image stabilization, no gimbal, so I'm not comparing the stabilization, but I am comparing fidelity. And from that standpoint, if Insta can get a 1-inch sensor in here at this price point, I don't see why a larger company like DJI can't do that for the Pocket line of pocketable gimbals, gimbal camera, whatever you want to call it. And the reason I've got the ZV-1 on the right side is because the ZV-1 really, to me, is the epitome of vlogging hardware. I mean, you have a 1-inch sensor, you have great still image quality, built-in ND filter, a display you actually can see, and that does flip all the way around so you can see yourself. Well, I went the wrong way. And you can see yourself properly. These are things that, you can see yourself on the little Osmo, but not particularly well. So that's an issue. I mean, for me at least. And, there I am on camera right now. It's upside down. Now it's right side up. Auto-correcting the orientation. I'll try to get myself in frame for you a little bit there. And I love this thing. At first, when I first reviewed it, I wasn't amazed or blown away, but now, in retrospect, you don't have a gimbal, okay? You would have to put this on a gimbal, but you can opt for something like the Bluetooth Sony Grip, which will set you back $100 on sale. You'll screw it on. It'll give you control of still as well as video capture, zoom, all that good stuff, give you a tripod, and yes, it's bulky, it's not pocketable, but it's still not ridiculous. And then you have the ability to use the gyro data that this captures and in post get electronic image stabilization that comes very close to gimbal-like quality. Now, this is only available on this camera, the A7S Mark III, which is a $3,500 mirrorless body, and the RX0 Mark II. Digest that. So this has some crazy technology, and yes, it retails for $800, but is often on sale for $699, and at $699, that's only $200 more than this, and you don't really need to buy this, do you? In fact, I'm seeing third-party generic rebrands, basically, of the Bluetooth grip from Sony coming out for less money, so it's a matter of time before we see knockoffs that will work with this, that will be less expensive. The other beautiful thing about both of these is that you can replace the battery. So when your battery's dead here, granted 2 hours of battery life should get just about all of you through a day of shooting. And of course you can hook a power bank up to it or whatever. Here you can just swap batteries. Here you can just swap batteries. Also, the Insta360 has the benefit of being water resistant. You know, this can go underwater. It can take a hit. It is definitely, it's an action cam. I mean, by definition. This is not. This is a pocketable gimbal camera. And this, of course, is not meant to get wet or take a drop. It's a camera. But I hope that you're seeing where I'm going with this. I still think that the DJI Pocket 2 is the best device of its kind. I think it's perfect for a lot of people who don't want to get a bulky gimbal and then, you know, a camera that ranges from, we'll say, $500 up to several $1,000s to drop on it. You're not going to get the quality that you would with that combo I just described, the high-end camera on the legitimate high-end gimbal, but you will get very good video quality, 4K 60, HDR eventually someday, that is improved over Gen 1, and that I think can be ideal for B-roll and beauty shots and all sorts of different creative content that you won't get out of traditional cameras without extra gear. And that is the beauty of the Pocket line. It does something that other cameras simply can't. But when I start to look at a real camera like the ZV-1 or a real action camera like the Insta360 1R 1-inch edition, that's where I come back to DJI really could do something more with the sensor. And even if they charged us $600 or $700, as I said in a comment to one of you, they could take my money in advance. They would be printing money because they would be putting every camera manufacturer on notice that there is a new standard for all manufacturers to live up to. And it would still be pocketable. I mean, come on. I carry around the Galaxy Z Fold 2 in my pocket. You know how much larger that is than this? Just for reference, okay? A little bit of reference. So, DJI, you can make this thing bigger. You can give us a bigger sensor. You can give us more features, and you won't make anyone's head explode. You'll just empty our wallets. But at $500 to get the creator bundle and really get everything out of this, I can't, in good faith, recommend to anyone out there watching that this is the way to go. Because I personally think that money is far better suited in a ZV-1 and relying on, again, the gyro data to stabilize your video footage. You've got a built-in ND filter. I already mentioned this. Yeah, there's no actual gimbal. However, the still and video quality blows this away. And once you creep into $500 territory, I can't pitch this as a novelty or just a cool gadget anymore. It's got to be a camera. And I'm not saying this isn't, but this brings me to the still side of things. Literally every reviewer, every review you will look at will say, when it comes to stills, it's better than nothing. I'm sorry, but at $500 or even the $350, maybe I would have no expectations. But at $500, I want something that can take a still image, even if this is really a video camera first, which of course it is. And that's why I don't like that DJI gave us a 64 megapixel sensor. I mean, who are they kidding? I thought we were past this. It'd be one thing if this was a full frame sensor like my A7R4, but on the sensor here that admittedly is larger than what was in Gen 1, but is still roughly the same size as what you'll find in a flagship smartphone, I just don't get it. It seems like DJI is following suit with the phone manufacturers who, again, are blowing smoke up your ass, telling you, making you think that more megapixels means more camera, and it just doesn't. So I don't like that they did that. They've misled many people about the zoom on this. It is a digital zoom, not an optical zoom. The audio zoom feature is actually more impressive than the video zoom feature. I do not recommend using the video zoom. And then when it comes to the high quality mode, if you run this in the high quality mode, there are limitations to what kind of video you can shoot, but you are going to get the highest bit rate. That sounds fine to me, but the truth is that in the high quality mode with that higher bit rate, I don't really see a difference in the video quality, and that's because this sensor is still so small. When I talk about 1-inch sensors and bit rates, or full frame sensors and bit rates, then we are making sense. But when we're talking about a sensor that typically would be found in a flagship smartphone and bit rates, who are you fooling? And that's really my point about this. So, to reiterate, I would not upgrade from the Pocket 1 to the Pocket 2. I'd wait for Gen 3. If you're brand new to the market, budget will make your decision if this is your must-have. And by the way, I don't think you'll be disappointed. The Pocket 2 is great. I feel personally that the money is better invested here or possibly in this action camera. That's just me. I'd rather have one of these than this guy, and these are exactly the same price at this point. So keep that in mind. That being said, this is still unlike anything else out there. I can easily recommend it. I think that it's just a more versatile product than it was in the past, and that's a good thing. Again, everything's improved. Wider angle, faster glass, bigger sensor, better audio performance. The accessories are arguably much better. But it's a one-year ecosystem, and by that I mean when they come out with Gen 3, much like my Gen 1 here, you're going to be looking at that new one and saying, whoa, they improved everything, and who knows how much gas is left in the tank on my now Gen 2. You won't know, because you don't know how many cycles you'll have left on the battery. And I'm not fear-mongering. It's just a fact of the matter, just like your smartphone. You know, the battery can be replaced there, but that's a device that is usually so expensive that it's worth doing the battery replacement. Here, it'll be worth buying the new version. I do not like companies manufacturing things that have an expiration date on them. And I overlooked that in Gen 1 because it was just too cool not to. Here, I feel like DJI had the opportunity, so add that to the list. Again, not giving us a user replaceable battery, not giving us a bigger screen, not giving us a larger sensor, not giving us built-in Wi-Fi or Bluetooth connectivity. Those are all strikes against this that, while it's amazing, it could be better. And because the screen is so small, you know, touch screen operation just leaves a lot to be desired. The general menu, you're seeing me swipe through now, but even that, it just doesn't perform that well, the touch screen. Let me get it closer because I don't know how well you could see any of that. You're going to want to stay in Pro mode because Pro mode is the only way you're going to get any manual control over this. So keep that in mind. I stay in 4K 60 on here. You do have color profiles, but I mean, like, who? I don't want to say who are you kidding, but you know, it's just one of those things where this isn't a toy, but this isn't a professional piece of gear. So I don't want anyone to be misled into thinking that. The glamour mode is not something that I've been using, but as you can see, it has limitations in resolution. General settings, I don't really feel anyone's going to visit this too often because you don't really need to. I mean, you want to check the status of your storage. You want to, you know, go with full screen on or off. I mean, there's not a hell of a lot that you're going to be playing with in here, in my opinion. Calibration, maybe. That's about it. If you go to more, if I can, language, reset, device info. I mean, this is really all about the firmware updates at the end of the day. That's what it really comes down to. And you can see I'm swiping around because even from using Gen 1 right now, I'm swiping and I can't get out of this menu. I just can't. So you can call it user error. I don't really care. I'm trying and it's just not permitting. I'm locked in is basically what has happened here. So I'm just going to go ahead and power this thing down. Slow-mo on here. It's good. You know, there's nothing wrong with it. But again, because the sensor is so small, I don't find myself using it. For me, this is all about 4K 60 with best-in-class stabilization. And that's exactly what you'll get out of it. But the tiny touchscreen, I mean, I don't want to keep going over it. You've gotten the picture. They made a marked improvement over Gen 1. They cleaned up the laundry basket of accessories. But at the end of the day, I think The cost of admission to do it right, which is really the bundle and not the base 350, is too much for me not to recommend a real camera to any of you. And the ZV-1 is really that idiot-proof real camera that, yes, it's some more money, but there is so much more to get out of it because it is truly still a still camera and a video camera. I mentioned the ND filter, mentioned the gyro information, and it's not because I'm selling Sony, it's because it's just so much more for your money. It's more expensive, but a much better value. And you won't be throwing it out, not literally, but it won't be dying on you because of a built-in internal battery in a year or two. So something to be said. Also, not in love with DJI's warranties. I don't know, about you, but they're not great to deal with. I'm not saying Sony is the gold standard, but far better than dealing with DJI. No question about it. Same can be said for Insta360. I haven't had a claim with them yet, and I really hope I don't. So Sony takes the cake there. And while this isn't a comparison, it's relevant to my full review that, again, I just feel that until they give us a pro version of this, like I said, make those improvements, DJI. Give me that bigger screen, the bigger sensor, a wider angle lens still, I think, can be done. This didn't get that much wider. It really didn't. The lens didn't get that much faster. So I think the biggest improvement ultimately is the microphone quality, which that doesn't blow me away. And that's why I said if you own Gen 1, you don't really need Gen 2. Use a wide angle adapter, connect a microphone to it, you're good to go. And some accessories from Gen 1 work with Gen 2, some don't. That's the way it is. What can I tell you? Some people say they all work. I haven't had that experience. But still, the accessory lineup is expensive. But with the Gen 1 accessories, you will find discounts, as I've stated. So at the end of the day, if you must have one of these type of products, the choice is really simple. Either you go really budget conscious and get Gen 1, which I still think is worthwhile, or you spend the extra cash and get the best version of the Pocket, which is Gen 2. But again, that creator bundle is just a backbreaker at $500. I do not see that as a value. And that's the main takeaway from this 27-minute video. Hope you enjoyed the video. Love this device, but I will not be keeping it. I did purchase this. I wish that I was more impressed. I'm just not, and I don't feel like it has a place in my workflow because I have this and this and this. If I didn't have any of these things, this would be an easy selection, but I'd still be struggling with the same thing I'm imparting on all of you, which is that I would likely be buying the creator bundle, and then I would be saying, should I really have not bought a real camera for vlogging that is designed for vlogging and that has buttons to make it idiot-proof so there's no learning curve? After all, I think that's who DJI is targeting with this. But there is still something beautiful about having a dedicated device that fits in your pocket, and you don't need to use your smartphone, if it had wireless connectivity, of course, and drain the battery. But at the end of the day, you're really getting smartphone video quality that's stabilized. You might prefer buying a gimbal for your smartphone for $100. And that's why this doesn't blow me away like Gen 1 did. Hopefully, Gen 3 will do that, and here's to the non-pandemic future that we all soon will hopefully enjoy. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. Hit that like button. And as usual, please feel free to subscribe, and please stay safe. Later.